You're listening to Ottawa Now with Kristy Cameron on News Talk 580 CFRA and the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
441, welcome back. Back in January, there were researchers in California that were attempting to communicate with humpback whales using AI algorithms. Now, they called it a conversation, but they admitted it wasn't like they were having a fully established conversation in whale language, but they were kind of touching base with the whales, making noises back and forth, and they established a connection of sorts. Now, there's a Canadian researcher that is trying to better understand what chickens are talking about, what they're expressing through their sounds and actions, in hopes of helping farmers improve animal welfare. And I'm fascinated by this. Foul language, is it a real thing? Suresh Neethirajan is an associate professor and university research chair of digital livestock farming at Dalhousie University and joins us now. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Hi, Kristy. Good evening.
I love the work that you're doing. So you're trying to harness artificial intelligence to understand what the chickens are talking about. Do chickens have their own language?
Yes, they do. They do communicate their discontent, frustration, happiness through their own methods. For example, the different sounds they make, the clucks, quacks, purrs. So we can actually decode them. There is a lot of information buried in those sounds or vocalizations they make, and also the gaps between those sounds. We basically look at what is the tone, what is the intensity, what is the energy behind each of those words, each of those vocalizations and sounds, and we decode that information. We use artificial intelligence and also natural language processing techniques to find meaning behind, the intention behind those sounds and understand their behavior and what is it that they try to communicate using artificial intelligence.
So the AI is acting as a chicken translator of sorts.
Yes, we could say that. For example, when we use different models from NLP, such as a Whisper model or a hidden Markov model, we can actually, they may look like a nonsensical language, but the artificial intelligence helps to create a poultry chicken linguistics. For example, these sounds can be translated to words such as knee-high, kyuchi, something very nonsensical. But when we actually put it into context, for example, a chicken in a healthy environment, a chicken that has an avian influenza disease, a chicken whose feeding or water has been delayed and it is stressed. So they make different kinds of sounds which translate to different words. So we derive those meaning behind the words, and then we decode them and translate what is it that they are actually trying to communicate, what is the emotion behind it. When I use the word emotion, it's emotion, that is energy in motion. Lots of energy fluctuates in terms of how the blood circulation level, the cortisol, lactate, neuroendocrine in the body of the chickens, and also there is a dissipation in heat, the thermoregulation that happens. So the combination of physiology and behavior expresses in the tonality via vocalization. So we use that audible or the sound energy to better understand the emotions of chickens.
You said to understand their social structure and their behaviors. How accurately do you think that we can actually decode what they're saying? To what degree? Is it just that chicken's mad, that chicken's hungry, or is it that chicken has a problem with this other chicken because of a thing that happened earlier? Or are they just not capable of that?
Yes. To a certain extent, we can definitely say that. So we use a variety of modalities. For example, we use thermal camera, a regular camera, an audio, the sound acquisition. And using this multimodality, from the ethological perspective, we decode the information. We also assess their behavior. For example, when I walk into a poultry barn, I may find 2,000, 3,000 birds in the pen, the floor of the poultry house. Sometimes there is a flock of birds try to take leadership, try to dominate and influence the rest of the flock.
The bad boy chickens.
Yes, so we actually decode, we actually understand how do they influence this. We call them as social network analysis through their own behavior. Sometimes they tend to peck, express their dominance. So we were able to decode and understand each of those small little nuances, subtleties using the sounds with the help of artificial intelligence. And we can classify, there is a possibility for these group of chickens to demonstrate a bit of aggression down the road exactly in 2 weeks because something is off here. There is an anomaly here. So those kind of predictive analytics is also possible via the artificial intelligence.
Why do they balk all at the same time? Do we know? Or should we remain blissfully ignorant on this front?
From an industry production scale perspective, when we reflect upon, they never see their own mother. The eggs hatch and the birds come outside. On day one, they basically start picking food. Okay, this is food, this is not food. And then they make a certain sound. They listen to the sound that's coming from the neighboring bird. That's how they create a pattern. They try to understand each other. So there is really no social imprinting process. For example, when we look at dairy cows or dogs, there is a dairy mother cow and there are calves. The calves look at the mother and learn, and there is an imprinting process. So the chickens doesn't have that opportunity. So they rely upon primarily the visual cues and also the audible sounds. Only through communication, through specific levels and patterns of sound, they exchange among themselves. Okay, this is food. I am safe. I am not comfortable. Through the different tonality, the amplitude and energy behind each of those vocalizations they make. So sometimes there is a competition for the feed. Sometimes they are too excited because their energy levels go higher. So it depends on the context. They make a lot of sounds at the same time together in the poultry barn.
I could talk to you for a lot longer, but I'm running out of time. I'll ask you in closing how you believe that this research can and should be used.
So we are looking at improving the welfare of the birds by understanding their discontent, frustration. For example, if there is a 0.5 degrees Celsius change in the temperature or humidity inside their poultry house, they express that discontent, frustration. If we introduce a specific playful material such as a perching or some kind of engagement material, they become so happy, they express that energy. So understanding these smaller changes help us to improve and enrich their quality of life. So at the end of the day, a happy chicken is a productive chicken and also improves the bonding between the animal caretaker, the farmer, as well as the chicken. So this creates a win-win situation in terms of sustainable profitability for the farmers, at the same time offering a very good enriched quality of life for the birds during their time in the farm.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kristy.
Suresh Neethirajan, who's an associate professor and university research chair of digital livestock farming at Dalhousie University. And Suresh is looking at this, how to use artificial intelligence to understand chickens, how they feel, what they're saying in their own language, and then using those insights from the research to apply it not only to farming with chickens, but other areas of animal husbandry.
It's a matter on the dance floor, but you better not kill the groove.
You're listening to Ottawa Now with Kristy Cameron on News Talk 580 CFRA and the iHeart Radio Talk Network.